Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, I am so delighted to be talking with author, creator Philip Tarl Denson. Philip, thank you for jumping in and joining.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure. It is a pleasure. Where in the world are you zooming from this evening?
I am in Australia, and in fact, I'm up in the north part of Australia, quite a remote part. It's Crocodile Dundee country.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. Now you are then a different day away from me, I think, because
Yeah.
currently it is like 8:30 p.m. here on September 25th, but it's different there.
Yeah, I'm from the future. You're hearing me from the
Wow.
future. Yeah, I'm the next morning. I think it's about 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. my time.
Hopefully everything is looking good over there in the future.
Yes, well, we'll see. Got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is just a wonderful segue into talking about the book that we're mentioning here, which is Future Tales, the graphic novel. So very curious to hear about that, and I'm curious about what connected you with storytelling, and in this case, comics, science fiction, anything in that sort of realm that you'd like to tell us about.
Well, I kind of have always been a story person. Like story was my first love. In retrospect, I can look back and see myself as a bit of a story addict. I read books. I would even go to the bookshop and just read the blurbs and get the concept of a story like it was a quick hit, like a junkie. But comics, even games, point and click adventure games, if you remember LucasArts
Hmm, hmm.
games like that. But I kind of just love story, but I never really thought it was a viable career. It just didn't come up in my head that way. But I was always writing, and it wasn't really until I'd working other jobs. I was working in the theater as well that I wrote my first screenplay, which then got optioned over in the US, and then one thing led to another, and that's what I am now. I'm a screenwriter. I work in feature film and TV. And I've always loved comic books, and this has been great that last year during a strike, we were able to
Hmm.
put this comic book out, and yeah, I'm really proud of us.
Yeah, yeah. Now, in your mind as you work, is sort of writing for film and television connected? Is it sort of the cousin of comics? Are they similar processes for you?
I think Cousin is probably closer. Do you know, they're similar because it's both a script. They're both different to prose, obviously, but I kind of see it like riding a horse compared to riding a motorcycle. Like they both look similar from a
Hmm,
distance, but like a screenplay is to be read and is to be shared and read a lot by lots of people. There's so many people have to tick it off before it gets anywhere, and your audience never really reads that.
hmm.
Um, but I still have to make it very like juicy, like get the story across. And whereas I think in the comic scripts, it's more for the artist. I can be a bit more mechanical and say what I want in the panels. It's just for them. It's just between me and them. And because the access to our audience is the next step, the very next step, whereas there's so many steps in the screenwriting side of things.
Yeah, yeah. Now, 6 degrees of separation question. Any work that you've worked on in film and television that people out there might recognize?
Well, it's funny. Although I'm writing on TV shows now and feature films as well as my main thing, most of them haven't been made. So I've got a project with Ridley Scott's company.
Hmm.
I had a project with Eric Heiserer, who wrote a role, Intrepid Pictures. I sold a TV show, or I had a TV show over there with Legendary, and which during the pandemic, so we won't talk about that. But that's, I had a first look deal. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in the industry, but as a working writer, I'm just kind of working and they pay me, and if it gets made, that's just a bonus. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll let you know when that first. I have a feature coming out later this year too, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. From what I've gathered in talking with authors on here, it's not done until it's basically out and someone's watching it on a screen and you're sort of getting the theater ticket in hand. So absolutely. But I'm sure that's a very cool world to be involved with.
Yeah, it's rewarding. It's great. I get to do what I love. And I used to say we're problem solvers. We're solving problems for producers and stuff, but it's not really. We're as writers, we're sort of discovering rather than
Mm.
solving, we're discovering. That's what it is. You're finding that story and you're just honing it and making it better, rewriting. I love the process, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners, well, I hope they do too.
Yeah, yeah. Now, your work with Future Tales is really interesting because you're pulling in sort of stories that are known, sort of fairy tale elements, but then
Mm.
reconstituting them, which I think is really interesting because I'm, of course, a literature fan. So, any particular tagline or inspirations that you'd like to mention behind the project?
Well, it's a reimagining of fairy tales, classic fairy tales. And
Mhm.
how I got into it was because fairy tales to me are this sort of universal story. Yeah, they're all kind of set in Europe. And that was one of the things that kind of got me into this story was that they seem to share a lot of similarities, like the woods, the scary woods, whether it's Hansel and Gretel or Little Red Riding Hood or whatever, they're going through these lost in the woods sort of thing. The big bad wolf and the three little pigs and again Red Riding Hood. Like there was this connective tissue that I kind of felt like, oh, there's a shared universe there. And
Mhm.
as a, growing up on Philip K. Dick and, Blade Runner and all the sci-fi stuff that I love and post-apocalyptic genre, which I love, I kind of just connected the dots a little bit where instead of the woods, it's a destroyed city where the buildings almost look like, scary trees because it's just the skeletons of buildings left. The big bad wolf is our baddie, and wolf stands for the World Order Liberation Front.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like a floating city, which is the Jack and the Beanstalk story. His one would be he has to go up to the floating city and get his golden egg. But the thing that really got my juices going for this is that, yeah, I could retell every story individually, but I love the idea that each chapter, even though it retells the fairy tale, it actually informs the next chapter and the next fairy tale. So they're all intertwined, and
Oh,
they
I love
all
that.
and characters show up in each other's stories as supporting characters, and they all lead to the final chapter where they join together, Avengers style, to fight the big bad. So that's what I kind of loved about the interweavingness of this story.
Richard Curtis meets Avengers. I love it. I love
Oh, great.
it.
Good
Nice.
reference.
Thanks, thanks. So curious about sort of the process and anybody that was helpful in bringing the book together that you'd like to mention.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I should start with the artists.
Hmm. Hmm.
That we chose artists from around the world. It was exciting because the fact that fairy tales are universal and I have artists in the Philippines or an artist in Brazil, France, uh, Morocco. Like there's artists all around who knew the story because those stories, Little Red Riding Hood, Goldilocks, all that, they're everywhere. We all
Hmm.
know those archetypal stories and characters, but they got to bring their flavor to it. Like the Jack and the Beanstalk, he's a Moroccan. The artist is Moroccan, but the character is also Moroccan. So Cinderella's character is Brazilian. Like they got to bring their flavor and their culture and their art style to that chapter. So we have slightly different art styles in each one, and then they all come together, like I said, in the end. But I'd also need to say thanks to Wild North Comics, who is a company that we started early on, and I have my own comic company now, Outlaw Comics, and we combined to get this up. This was our first standalone comic because we started as an anthology. That's how this started. It was just 10 pages whenever we could do it every few months. And why I chose this story was because they could be standalone chapters, which then lead to a bigger story if the reader continued with that anthology. But collecting it together in a graphic novel made it, quite simple, one story, one and done.
Love that. Love that. As you're planning that as a writer, are you putting things on a board? Are you notebooking? How does that process sort of look for you?
As a in the comics world, it's quite different to how I would do it in screenwriting. How I also draw. I'm an artist. I'm not great at coloring and all the digital side of things. So
Hmm.
I would often lay out my comic, and I think very format wise. So if I'm writing a play, it's all about, I've got a live audience captured. How does that in inform the my work? In a comic, it's all about the page and that
Yeah.
turn. So
Mhm.
how am I getting that turn on every page? So in a screenplay, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about obviously in scenes, or if it's a TV, it's you going up to your ad breaks and getting that moment. Whereas it's every page on a comic. So I think almost like a director, I guess, as a comic, and comic writers out there might have a similar thing. You're seeing what you want visually and where every turn is going to be. But then opening it up to the artists is amazing because they come up with things that I would never have thought about, or I like to collaborate in a pretty open, flowy way and let them just do their thing as well. So yeah, it's a different way of writing,
Mhm.
but because there's a lot of visuals, and I send references too, often references from other comics or even visuals like online or photos I've taken. So yeah, I like to kind of keep it loosey goosey.
Nice, nice. Well, I think the only question that I have remaining, unless there's anything that we missed, is if I'm a listener out there, if I want to support, if I want to find out more and see your work, where are some places where I might do that?
Well, I think Amazon. We're on Amazon at the moment, so I think it's
Hmm.
free delivery. I think it's only $20 US. We kept it pretty low. Here's I don't know if you can see that. This is the cover. It's
Lovely,
got a
lovely.
gold foil, which I really liked. But yeah, amazing artists in there. Lots of different. It's almost anthology, but it's really one story as well. So that's quite exciting. So Amazon, definitely go check it out on Amazon. Wild North Comics website, as well. And that's probably about it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, it sounds like you're busy and I'm sure you have projects ahead. Always glad to have you come back to talk about what those might be and how they might shape up. And anything that we've missed that you want to make sure to share before we close out?
No, I mean, just check out the book, but also check out these artists and go onto their social medias, follow them. They're all really great, amazing artists from around the world who we just cobbled together this ragtag team, but all of them have abilities to be working for some of the best. So, yeah, if you're writers out there and you're looking for artists, check them out.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Philip. And the invitation is open if you ever want to come back to talk about comics, film, or anything in between.
Thanks, Jason. Pleasure.